Veterans Day ceremony. I'm extremely proud to be here today to be your MC, because I am a veteran. I'm proud to say I'm a veteran. I answered the call to duty back in 1964 when I graduated from high school. I joined the Marine Corps. I served 13 months in Vietnam. So this day is special to me, and also special because I want to remember also not only the veterans, but also the veterans' families who remained at home and waited till their veterans came home, or in some cases they did not return. Anyways, we're here to salute all veterans and their families. My name is Richard Stratton. I'm currently the chairman of the North Reading Veterans Events Committee, and as you can see by my attire, I'm captain of the North Reading River. Each year, on the 11th month, 11th day, on the 11th hour, we gather in honor of the men and women who have chosen the path to defend our borders. This is the day and the time to honor our valorous Americans who serve with sacrifice, courage, and commitment. Throughout generations, it's a day to honor and keep in prayer those who are currently serving today. Today, throughout the United States, in every city and town, we take time to honor our brave men and women who served on foreign lands. Many return with visible wounds, but many return with invisible wounds. Many have great difficulties adjusting back to civilian life. Our valorous veterans sacrificed so much for our liberties, our right to free speech, our right to religion, our right to vote, our right to fair trial, our right to freedom of the press. They should never be taken for granted. I ask each and every one of you to take the time, not only today, but every day, to look into the eyes of a hero, shake their hand, and thank them for their service. We will now start the ceremony. And we're going to start off with an invocation by Pastor Rachel Fisher.
Please pray with me. Gracious God, we thank you for this beautiful Sunday morning. We thank you for this community, these people in this place that take this time set apart to remember those who've served this country. God, you have said that greater love has no man than this, than to lay down his life for his friends. God, we know that all who have answered the call to serve consider this as part of their service, and we thank you for them. Bless these proceedings, bless all who participate, and fill our hearts with reverence. I pray in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Fisher. All right, please stand for a presentation of our nation's colors, led by Marines of the 25th Regiment at Fort Devens.
Reset. Oh!
You will now recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now we will have the national anthem performed by Olivia Rowe.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you very much. That was beautiful, Olivia. Now we will have a reading by Irene Young.
Good morning, everyone. And to all our veterans, thank you for your service. Every year, the North Reading Republican Town Committee offers please be seated. Every year, the North Reading Republican Town Committee offers a $750 scholarship to our high school seniors. And they have to respond to the prompt, what the American flag means to me. This year's recipient is Abigail Kerber, and this is her essay. What do you see when you look at the American flag? Most people just see a flag with the colors red, white, and blue, with some stars and stripes. To me, the flag stands for much more. It stands for equal rights, opportunity, and life, as I would not exist without it. My maternal grandparents immigrated to America from South Korea so that their kids could have more opportunities and live a better life. My paternal great-grandmother served in the war and married my paternal great-grandmother, who immigrated from France. Without the American flag and all that it stands for, my parents would not have had the opportunity to get married, and I would not exist, as my parents are an interracial couple. The flag is not just a representation of America and freedom. It means so much more to me. It gives me a sense of pride to know that I live in America, where people of all different races and colors are welcomed with open arms and have opportunities that are not available everywhere. Many people fought and died in wars to protect our flag and what our country stands for. My paternal great-grandfather fought in the war. He drove a tank in World War II and helped to protect our country and our freedom. The flag reminds me that I should not take my freedom for granted and that I should appreciate it. In many countries, you cannot say what you want, but in America, You have the freedom to say and do just about anything you want. I think many people in America take it for granted that you can say and do just about anything you want. In many countries, you could be arrested and even killed for expressing your opinion. When I see the American flag, it reminds me to appreciate the freedoms and opportunities we have. Women in America have the same rights as men, which is not the case in many countries. As a woman of color, I am thankful that I have the opportunity to pursue whatever I want in my future. I am not restricted by race, religion, or gender. There are too many opportunities to choose from, which isn't a bad thing. Through all my years of playing sports and the injuries I've encountered, I've decided to pursue a career in physical therapy. I want to help people that get injured get back on their feet so that they can go back to doing what they love. But I know that if I change my mind as I begin my studies, I can and have the opportunity to pursue something else, because we live in America, the land of opportunity and freedom. America, the flag and all it stands for, gave my parents the opportunity to date, get married, and have kids. Every time I see the American flag or sing the national anthem, I am emotional and proud. The flag is a symbol of opportunity and life to me, and I am thankful for it every day. Thank you.
Okay, the Boy Scouts can now retire, and the Cub Scouts. Next on the agenda, we will have the Governor's Proclamation being read by Town Administrator Michael Gilberto.
Good morning. It's a proclamation for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Whereas, since the Commonwealth's earliest days, thousands of men and women have served our country in defense of freedom and liberty, and whereas, on November 11, 1918, after 4 years of conflict, the armistice was signed in the Forest Company by the Allied nations in Germany, ending World War I, the war to end all wars. And whereas, since that day, every November, people from around the nation have gathered to honor our veterans. And whereas, in November 2023, the world will commemorate the 105th anniversary of the armistice that ended the fighting in World War I at 11 o'clock a.m. November 11th, 1918, the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. And whereas there are approximately 300,000 veterans living in Massachusetts. And whereas today we are reminded of the great sacrifices and contributions of our veterans have made to our country. And whereas we honor and salute those who served our country throughout the generations with honor, patriotism, and courage. And whereas it is appropriate that all Massachusetts citizens remember the bravery of those who served their country, so that their dedication and sacrifices serve as a reminder of the cost of our freedom. And now, therefore I, Maura T. Healy, Governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, do hereby proclaim November 11, 2023 to be Veterans Day, and urge all residents of the Commonwealth to take cognizance of this event and participate fittingly in its observance. Given at the Executive Chamber in Boston this 11th day of November in the year 2023, and of the independence of the United States of America 247 by Her Excellency Maura T. Healy, Governor of the Commonwealth, Kimberly Driscoll, Lieutenant Governor of the Commonwealth, and William Francis Galvin, Secretary of the Commonwealth. God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Thank you, Michael. We will now have the town proclamation read by Leanne Gonzalez, Chair of the Select Board of North Reading.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for taking the time out of your day to be here on a beautiful day. We have the sun shining. A little windy and cold, but that's all right, we'll take it. I'm always honored to be here to represent the Select Board and as the liaison of the Veterans Events Committee. I don't take it lightly. I really do think of it as an honor to be here to speak. I'd also personally like to thank the North Reading Republican Town Committee for bringing that forward to the high school students as a grant for bringing their attention to the American flag. It's an important thing and it's inspiring to hear what these young adults have to say about that. So much appreciated for that. 2 years ago, I came to the Veterans Director and asked her if she could bring forth a proclamation to not only make today an appreciation for the veterans, but for it to be for the whole month. And she did an amazing job bringing that forward. So I would like to share that with you today. So each year, we will honor our veterans in this town for the entire month of November. Town of North Reading Proclamation for November as Veterans and Military Families Appreciation Month and Veterans Day. Whereas during the month of November and Veterans Day, America becomes one in honoring our veterans to commemorate their legacy of honor, pride, courage, sacrifice, and commitment. America is strong because of their profound love of this great nation. Through their selfless actions, our veterans and warriors have given up the comforts of home and family to defend our borders. We as a nation must support our veterans, for we would not be America if not for their sacrifices. And whereas during the month of November and Veterans Day, we shall continue to honor those who laid down their lives for over 200 plus years of wars. We continue to honor the service and sacrifice of these brave men and women. We continue to pray for the Gold Star families who have had to endure the loss of their loved one. Their family structure has been changed forever. Their loved ones remain forever in their hearts as they learn to live with their unforgettable loss. And whereas during the month of November and Veterans Day, we should remain vigilant and continue to support the physical and mental health needs of our veterans and warriors. War is not a distant memory for our servicemen and women. For many, it is an everyday struggle, even years after military service. We must continue to provide services to help them through their struggles. And whereas during the month of November and Veterans Day, we remember the children of our veterans and warriors who struggle with their mother, father, or sibling serving in the military. Many struggle due to the absenteeism of their loved one away, affecting their everyday life. It's vitally important to support them through these difficult times, be it through schools, churches, and supportive services for military families. And whereas, during the month of November and Veterans Day, parents of veterans and warriors struggle with a loved one away from home. They try to keep the home fires burning through everyday responsibilities of attending to everyone's needs. They too struggle with stress deep down as they try their hardest to keep life at home as normal as possible. Take time to reach out and lend an ear or a hand to offer support. Whereas during the month of November and Veterans Day, the town of North Reading will continue to honor and respect our Purple Heart recipients who through their meritorious acts of courage and sacrifice fought in battles and were wounded or killed in action by enemy fire. We will continue to honor them, especially on August 7th and the month of November each year. And now, therefore, we, the Select Board of North Reading, do hereby proclaim November to be Veterans and Military Families Appreciation Month and observe Veterans Day on the 11th day of November 2023. with appropriate ceremony and prayer in honor of our veterans and warriors whose steadfast desire through valor and sacrifice preserve the principles of justice, freedom, and democracy. We shall take the time to reflect and remember our heroes and their families for all the sacrifices they have made in order to keep our homeland safe. We encourage you to continue to display the American flag with pride on your homes, offices, and town buildings. Given at the Select Board meeting the 6th day of November 2023, by myself, Select Board Chair Leah Gonzalez. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. Now we will have the North Reading High School band perform Military Escort. Thank you very much. The North Reading band was led by Ben Owens, band director, and also the drum major was Isabel Kim, and assistant drum majors were Rafi Toby and Nathan Burke. Thank you very much. So I would like all the children to come and gather around for the story of the veterans in our neighborhood. So, any children in the crowd here, we'd like you to come forward. And we're going to have a reading by Debbie Aldridge from the Veterans Events Committee.
Who can tell me what a veteran is? Is it somebody who fixes animals? What's a veteran? What is it? You're right. Somebody who saved our country. That's awesome. Someone who saved our country. Someone, hi guys, who used to be a soldier. So the name of my story is Veterans, Heroes in Our Neighborhood. The author is Valerie Funstein, and the illustrator is Aaron Henderson. Today we learned about heroes, a really special kind. The ones who serve America and leave their homes behind. We read about the veterans who give all they can give to keep our country safe and free so we can love and live. Our teacher asked us to name a veteran we know. She said, now you may be surprised. It won't be hard to do. So after school, I asked my dad. He had amazing news. These veterans lived right in our town. So many, who can choose? Do you guys know some veterans?
Do you know veterans that work in our town? There are family, neighbors, friends who never brag or boast. We all should be reminded of their love for home and flag. The man in town who cuts our hair is known as Frank the Barber. But not too many know, he was a sailor at Pearl Harbor. The butcher at the grocery store who cuts the meat for stew was once a paratrooper. Whoa. Matt served in World War II. And Walter is a Navy man who came to fix our heat. He once fixed boilers on the ships. And then sailed with the U.S. fleet. Look at the pictures of his fleets. That is so cool. Our neighbor Jacqueline is a nurse who wears a uniform. She cared for wounded soldiers when they served in Desert Storm. Ernie is a firefighter. We knew that he was brave, and yet we never knew about the Air Force time he gave. He was in the Air Force. And Edna, our librarian, had a son named John. He died while training for Iraq. Now she's a Gold Star mom. Our mailman is a volunteer who trains each year to serve. When duty calls, Bob goes abroad. He's in the Army Reserve. And Manny is a proud Marine who did a corporal's part. He was wounded overseas and wears a Purple Heart. We celebrate our Veterans Day the 11th of November. We show our patriotic pride and promise to remember. Our heroes' headstones wear the flag from coast to coast in May. It's how we honor those we've lost and mark Memorial Day. We painted posters of our heroes and marched in a parade. So thank these men and women for their sacrifices made. So this boy is saying thank you to his grandpa. And this child is saying God bless America and June. And this one says, my hero is my dad and mom. Both of his parents are in service. But we don't need a calendar to celebrate the brave. We pledge allegiance to the flag and let those colors wave. It doesn't matter where they served, what branch of service or rank. What matters is remembering them and always offering our thanks. And this are pictures of the Brio service people that we talked about in the book. These are like their real life pictures, not photos. Isn't that cool? Thank you guys so much. You are an awesome audience. Give yourself a hand.
Thank you, Debbie. That was very interesting. Michelle. Thank you, Michelle. At this time, I would like to call Susan Magner, Veterans Director, to tell her story from a mother's point of view. When a loved one is at war.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Sue Magner, Veterans Director, and I apologize. I'm still trying to get over a cold, so hopefully you just bear with me on this one, okay? I'd like to take this time, though, to thank everyone for joining us here today, to pay tribute to our veterans, our warriors, and our military families. This year, in addition to thanking our vets and warriors, I only felt it was fitting to also honor the families, as well as many families go through a lot. The children go through a lot, and I think it's really important to incorporate it all from both sides. For my family, it all actually began back in 1990 when my older brother, who's now retired First Sergeant John Bernard, was activated to deploy to Saudi Arabia for Desert Storm. It was in November, and I remember we were having early Thanksgiving dinner that my mother made for all of us to celebrate prior to his deploying. It was later that evening when my brother had to leave and get back up to Topsham to meet up with his unit and get ready for the deployment. And I literally watched my mother collapse on the floor, watching her oldest son leave. It was heart-wrenching. Upon his return in April 16, 1991, he actually came back on my second oldest son's 7th birthday. I'll never forget my son's words to his Uncle John. He said, looked right up at my brother and he said, "You know, Uncle John, when I grow up, I want to be just like you." So I recall asking my brother if he felt the mission that he accomplished, the mission that they went out to set out to do, if he felt they had accomplished their mission. And his response was literally, "Saddam's still alive." So read between the lines, it wasn't over. So I also remember telling him that if, in fact, my son, Chris, was going into the Marine Corps, it was my gut feeling that I knew as a mom that he would follow in his footsteps and he would be deployed. So when 9/11 hit in 2001, Chris was still a senior in high school. And typically, a lot of Marines seem to do this, but for those that want to really go hardcore into the service, and he was still 17 and forced me to sign his papers. As mothers, we typically have good intuition when it comes to our children, and I just couldn't get over this gut feeling. I just couldn't shake it. So from the time Chris was 10, he actually read what they consider the Marine Corps Bible from cover to cover. He even wore his hair cut as a high-end type. But through the years in high school, he continued to pursue his dream, and by meeting with recruiters and working out with them regularly to prepare himself for boot camp. As a single mom of 4 children, I can personally attest to life as a military family. It's now been over 21 years since Chris went into the Marine Corps in 2002. I clearly recall the day the Marines came to the house and picked him up to escort him into Boston and get him prepped up for his journey, his 13-week journey to Paris Island. Through writing many letters and probably sending bad packages of goodies in boot camp, not a good thing. That's how we kept up in touch with them. The hard part was with the empty seat at the table. Little did I know that that empty chair was going to remain empty for many years. Then in 2004, my oldest decided to join the Navy. And when he went in, he actually ended up getting medically discharged short time through his boot camp training, and which was very difficult as he wanted to serve his country as well. And in February of 2003, the one thing I knew in my heart of hearts was hearing my son's was going to deploy, his first deployment was going to be Iraq, which was the start of the war. As a mother, I would say this was one of the hardest times in my life. And all you could do was keep your eyes on the TV and pray every day for their safe return. Moreover, we didn't want to send any upsetting news because we were still writing letters back and forth. And I know, without a doubt, they weren't going to send us any information because they didn't want to upset us. So it was a two, our end and their end. Nobody wanted to tell anybody really what's going on. So you always wanted to keep them upbeat. We would send packages, care packages every week, and write letters trying to keep them upbeat. Even sent Christmas trees, coffee mugs, hot chocolate, the old-fashioned Christmas discs. Try to give them a little Christmas time. But the one thing I did notice a lot was how it was affecting his siblings. The youngest one, she was only 8 years old at the time, and she was actually losing a lot of weight, and the depression was setting in with the kids. They'd sit in their rooms, they didn't want to come out. So that part I remember clearly, and how hard it was. They weren't sleeping well, and at times they would just shut down. When he did return home from his first deployment, we had a great family gathering with friends and everything. And it was probably approximately 5 months later that his unit would deploy again. This time, he went to Djibouti, Africa. So 2003, Iraq, then Djibouti, Africa. 2004, back to Djibouti, Africa. Then in 2005, he deployed back to Iraq again, and then in 2006, back to Iraq. Then in 2006, my brother's only son, Joshua, joined the Marine Corps. So we had a lot of things going on with the family at that point. Chris deployed again in 2008, this time to Afghanistan, while Joshua in 2009, his unit deployed out to Afghanistan. His first deployment was to Iraq, his second was to Afghanistan. But it was the 2009 deployment that, for Joshua, that I remember. I was actually had gone to the grocery store, and my younger son, I pulled up, and he kept telling me, "I'm in the house." And went in, and he sat me down, and he goes, "We had lost Joshua." Joshua's unit was, he was point for his unit, and his unit was ambushed. And we lost Joshua. And that was 10 months after we lost my mom as well. So the loss was hard. And the one thing I can say is military families, you'll never get over it. What we do is we learn to live with it. Then in 2009, the youngest one of mine, Kyle, decides to join in. And he ended up joining the reserves. And he went off to boot camp in 2010, early 2010 to Paris Island. And then in sometime in late February, I was advised that not only he was deploying out, but Chris was deploying again. This time both of them to Afghanistan. So I had one in the northern, one in the southern. That's all the gray hairs, folks. So the stress of having two of them now is really getting to be insane, but we just muddle through and you just try to do the best you can. But when you're in your downtime, in your home, the stress really catches up to you, and you have a lot of water running through the eyes. The youngest one decided not to go into the military. She ended up studying Asian languages while her brothers were serving. And she ended up on a Fulbright scholarship to China, and then from there, studied in Japan for a year, and then taught in South Korea for a year. Through all this, though, I would keep in close contact even with my son's wife when he was deployed, because she was all alone. And she at one point was actually raising their infant son. So it's just been difficult in every direction. She would find all kinds of games and marble counts and things of that nature to keep him busy, kept him in sports and everything, so that he could just keep his mind off of things and know that Dad was coming home soon. And then in 2017, he decided to change up jobs, and he ended up doing various countries to include Central America, Caribbean, various nations, and he was training the Marines at that point. So I'm happy to say now, even though he's in the reserves, he was able to make it for the first time in 14 years that I've been doing this to my ceremony. Chris, raise your hand. He's now a Master Sergeant in the Marine Corps, and I'm very excited to have him home. And Thanksgiving this year, it's been over 20 years, and it's the first time I'll have all my kids home at the table. So it's tough on a family. So I just ask you, when you see other people and you know other people are deploying, your neighbors, just reach out and just ask them, see if they need anything. Just let them know you're there for them, because it does take its toll with all the holidays missing and everything. So, but I want to thank you all for coming, and that's part of my story.
Thank you, Sue, for your insightful reflections. From a parent's point of view, I can relate somewhat because I left my parents home when I departed for Vietnam. So thank you very much. Okay, next we have our guest speaker tonight, this afternoon, is Christy Lynn Stevens of North Reading. She'll be reading her story, The Cost of War, from the eyes of a child.
Good morning. My name is Christy Lynn Stevens, and I am here today to speak about my father, Edward Stevens. In 1967, at just 17 years old, he enlisted in the Army and was quickly sent to Vietnam, where he served in war from December 1967 to December of 1968. In 1979, he would meet my mother and marry her in 1980. Together, they would have 5 children: Michael, Tara, Rachel, Jeffrey, and me, Christy Stevens. In 2000, when I was 4 years old, my dad would have his first of many post-war related health scares, a brain aneurysm. From there on, his conditions would only worsen. By the time I reached 8 years old, my dad had left side paralysis in his arm with no functional ability and was barely able to walk. Growing up, I was a huge tomboy. I came from a big sports family and instantly followed my siblings' lead, participating in athletics. For instance, I played goalie in soccer. My dad would never be able to kick a soccer ball to me to help me practice my stopping skills. I played baseball, but we would never play catch. Mini golfing in the summertime always made me smile, but he would never be able to make it on the course to see a hole-in-one. When I finally reached age 16, he was fully wheelchair bound. I went to take the test for my driver's license, but he wasn't able to be the one who showed me the ropes behind the wheel. By the time I was a senior in high school, he had already suffered through several strokes and heart attacks. I remember vividly how in school, your classroom phone would ring with a call from the office if a student needed to be dismissed. Each peer excitedly wondering if they would be able to leave school early that day. But I remember the sheer panic that I would feel. I would think to myself, yep, this is it. Today's the day. I'm in math class and I'm going to get the call that my dad has passed away. After I graduated, his condition worsened. At home, we used every resource and exhausted every avenue that we could. Home health aides, physical therapists, occupational therapists, and psychiatrists were in and out of my home each and every day. When emergency help was needed, I wasn't a stranger to calling 911. I watched him go through countless ER visits, hospital stays, and extended rehab stays for months on end. For many years, my family spent numerous birthdays, Christmases, and so many other holidays in a hospital setting so that we could be with him. I watched my mother sleep on cots and live out of hospital rooms just to be next to him. I watched the fear in my father's eyes countless times that he didn't feel good, always thinking that his time was about to come to an end. In 2018, it eventually did, after a long battle with kidney disease. I was 22 years old. Throughout his lifetime, my dad suffered from a brain aneurysm, 4 strokes, 4 heart attacks, paralysis, seizures, kidney disease, neuropathy, PTSD, and had 11 stents put into his body. Much of these are attributed to the effects of Agent Orange in Vietnam. Since my dad has passed, he has missed some very significant milestones. My siblings have all gotten married to their significant others and have had children. My dad would be up to 8 grandkids right now, with the 9th on the way due in April. Faces that he will never get to meet, and they will never get to hear their grandfather's infectious laugh. He didn't get to be there the day that I accepted my diploma for my master's program in 2020. The day that I get married, he won't be there to walk me down the aisle. When a veteran comes back from war, it doesn't just affect their life, it affects their entire lifeline. It trickles down into each and every part of the family tree, and no one is left the same. My dad was the most courageous man. He suffered through the battle in active duty, but also for years long after the war was over. I mourn the life that we could have had if he wasn't draped with so many ailments, but I will always cherish the man that had the fight in him to keep going day after day. The man that sat and watched Forrest Gump with me, the man that taught me how to play Go Fish, the man that always made sure to keep smiling, be there as a dad in any possible way that he could, and to always remind me that today is a good day to have a good day.
Thank you, Christine. That was a very stirring account of your relationship with your father. We can all relate, I'm sure. This time we're going to have the North Reading High School Band play American March Classic. We will now have the firing of the volleys by the North Reading Minute Militia, followed by placing of the wreaths and a moment of silence and taps played by Ivan Dako and Marshall Murray.
he's getting back into his other position. Moment of silence for the replacing. Please stand for taps.
Order.
Please be seated. Thank you, Ivan Dico and Marshall Murray, presenting us with taps. Before we close our ceremonies, I ask that you take time and reflect upon our men and women and what they endure day to day to protect us all. Many won't be home for the holidays. Many are struggling with the invisible wounds of war. Many are struggling with addictions and homelessness. Please remember them in your thoughts and prayers. And we thank everyone for joining us here today. There will be refreshments in the senior center up here up the stairs and small gifts for the kids after the ceremony. And I'd like to call Pastor Rachel Fisher back up for the benediction.
Excuse me, before we do that, I'd like to make one other closing statement. Sorry, I had to perform my other duties as captain of the Minutemen. Before we have the closing prayer, I'd like to invite the Evans family up to the podium. They would like to make a presentation to Susan Magner, the Director of the Veterans Services in North Reading. Susan?
Thank you, veterans and families. My husband, Eric Evans, wanted to be here today. However, it happens to be the weekend of his high school reunion. In his place, our son, Blaine, and I are here to present this gift to Sue Magner. This is a panoramic picture he took last year of this ceremony. We want to say thank you to Sue for all that you do. While we all may think we see what you do, that was a tongue twister. While we all may think we see what you do, we recognize that so much more goes on behind our view. Thank you, Sue. We see you and we thank you.
Thank you to all the veterans for that.
Very nice, beautiful.
Well, this is when we all gathered last year. We're gonna do another one this year. We're gonna do another gathering of everybody behind here, so we can get a nice group picture again.
Okay, thank you. I also would like to take the opportunity to thank Susan, as well as Kathy McLaughlin, for organizing this event today. They did a great job. And also to the Veterans Events Committee, who support me in my chairmanship, and also all the participants today that I will not take time to mention, but you know who you are. At this time, we're going to have the closing prayer, the benediction from Pastor Rachel Fisher.
I'll tighten it up, don't worry. See, I remember when Susan was like, hey, everybody get up and stand in the picture last year, and I was like, what is she doing? That is so hard to herd cats, and it turned out beautifully, Susan. I'm so glad. Let's pray. God, this has been really special. It's been really amazing to see the reflections of different generations, the teaching and learning going on during this event. God, the calling us back to our foundational principles. It's been inspiring. We thank you for this time, and we ask that you would continue to bless this country, bless each and every one of us, and God, especially be with our veterans and their families. I pray in Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Pastor Fisher. Now please join us in singing God Bless America, played by the North Reading High School Band. Please stand. Wasn't this a wonderful ceremony today? Yes. Have another round of applause for everyone who participated. I believe that concludes our ceremonies for today. Thank you all for coming. Again, there are refreshments in the senior center and small gifts for the children.